Welcome back to another episode of the Master Trainer Podcast. Today I want to talk briefly about Pokemon mobile games. We're getting towards the end of the summer, 2024. We know Pokemon Legends ZA is coming at some point, but we don't have a release date. It's probably later into 2025. We have no idea about Generation 10. That might even be 2026. There's no kind of side games coming out on the Switch. All we have is mobile games, really. That's the only thing that keeps updating on a regular basis. And so, while a lot of us have been Pokemon fans for decades now, unless you're replaying old games, the new content coming out, yes, they are doing stuff in Scarlet and Violet, new raids, new boosted shiny, I forgot what they're called, but like when they, hordes or whatever they are. But once you do that, it takes maybe an hour, 2 hours, especially the boosted raids, you can knock it out. What are you doing? How are you interacting with this franchise? Unless you're really into competitive Pokemon or you're trying to complete a shiny dex, I mean, a lot of people just burn out on those games. But mobile games are something you might be connecting with Pokemon every day. You might be on Pokemon Sleep every day. You might be checking Pokemon Go, even just to do your daily Pokeball Stop Spin or catch your daily Pokemon. But besides that, I feel like Pokemon really has missed the boat on mobile games. And I think missed the boat might be the wrong term there, because they can always come back. You can always make a better mobile game. And I know Pokemon TCG Pocket was just announced with the date of October 30th. Not a lot of details about that. At Pokemon Worlds, they basically said you were opening a pack real quick. They didn't really show what the gameplay was. I've heard it's kind of like Marvel Snap. Never really played that. But there's a chance that this is, the first step in this direction, or another step in this direction, because I can't say all Pokemon mobile games are terrible. Pokemon Go is a game that I'm still playing 8 years in, and I have lots of gripes with this game. I have lots of ideas to make Pokemon Go better, but this isn't a podcast about Pokemon Go today. This is about Pokemon mobile games in general. And Pokemon Go, actually, for the sake of this argument, is very, very successful and hits the market exactly where it could fit in. It was probably the first and maybe the only super mainstream AR game on mobile. I mean, it was built by Niantic on their Ingress engine, I believe. I think that was the underlying game they used to base this off of. And name one other AR game that's really taken off. There's Pikmin Go, but that's really only in Japan. If you're in America, I doubt you're playing Pikmin Go. There's Monster Hunter that they just released, but that's much later, and I only know of one person playing that game. There was a really weird NBA. I think there's a Harry Potter one. I have no idea if that's still going on. A Jurassic Park one. But I don't know anyone playing those games. But I can go to work right now, and I know 4 people in the building that play Pokemon Go. Don't really know anything else about them in their home lives, but I know they play Pokemon Go because we all compete for the same gyms. I can go to a park on a community day and see 100 people in a park. It's still a game that really has captured that space, and there's really nothing else there. It's kind of perfect. Could it be improved on? Yes. But that's a topic for another day. Outside of Pokemon Go, I feel like they've missed opportunity after opportunity. And I'm not really sure why. Because they've shown that they're willing to outsource the IP to companies that can make these games. Obviously, they gave Pokemon Go to Niantic. I think Pokemon Sleep is outsourced to someone else. The Master Trainer game, I've never played it. I know it's a thing for some people. And there's the puzzle games, which are weird. And so you might be saying, well, you're just complaining that you don't like the games. Partially. But there's some things I just never understood. Recently, I've been playing a game. It's honestly, the name is kind of weird because it seems to be listed differently in different places. But I sideloaded it to my iPhone. It's either called Pokemon Pocket Incoming or Pokemon Awakening, something around those titles. But if you ever played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, or I think Marvel Contest of Champions is very similar, it's one of those games where you start with a few characters, but then you open packs or collect shards by doing the daily battles. So you go to, there's a map and there's different battles with multiple rounds of enemies, and you pick your team, you go and you battle, And if you win on the normal mode, you can get a few items. If you land on the hard mode, you have the chance to get a shard for a character. You collect 20 shards of the character, you unlock the character, and then the character is star number 1, and then you collect so many stars, you upgrade to 2, to 3, to 4, you get it to like, whatever, 7. I don't know what the technical name for that game is. Is there a technical name for it? It's just, I guess it's a turn-based RPG collectible card style game is how you would describe it. And I never understood why Pokemon didn't have that. Because Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is obviously a very successful game over its run. I'm sure it's made a good amount of money, especially when it was in its heyday, and I knew so many people playing that game. And I always thought Pokemon would really lend itself to that format. I think a lot of franchises would lend themselves to that format. And it's a mobile game that obviously you can monetize very easily because you just release time and you do events and you make some characters lock behind events, and those events only cycle through for a certain amount of days every so often. And because you're constantly trying to upgrade them and you just keep raising the bar of how you can upgrade, you're like, oh, right now you can become a master level whatever. Oh, and then once enough whales have bought that, a master level whatever. It's one of those games with almost infinite monetization until you just lose your player base. But it's also fun. I played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes for probably 4 years, and I was in there every day. I was doing my stuff, and then until I just kind of got burned out, realized I wasn't friends with the people in my clan anymore. I was doing the same stuff every day, and I moved on to other games. But there's people I know that still play that. And I never understood why Pokemon never ventured into that kind of game or even explored it. And so when I found This Pocket Incoming or Pokemon Awakening, it really was like, this is exactly what they should have done. And it's monetized. So I don't know how it exists. I don't know how it hasn't been banned. I don't know how it hasn't been sued into oblivion. I know I'm not outing them or anything. You can search them up on YouTube. It'll come up. There's probably ways to load it. From iPhone, I had to use a side loader website to load it on. But I think on Android, you can probably just download it. And I played the game free to play for a few days now, and it's exactly what I expected it to be. And I never understood why that kind of game didn't exist on the regular App Store. And to the same extent, Delta Emulator has blown up recently. Now, I know everyone's playing Pokemon Yellow on their Delta Emulator and they're just blown away. I'm pretty sure if it's not the exact app, almost identical app, my friends and I had sideloaded to our iPhones back in like 2013. I remember sitting around in the summer of 13-14, and we'd be out at a restaurant just playing Pokemon Yellow all on our iPhones. And we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I always thought, if I can do this on my own with a ROM, why wouldn't Pokemon do this? They could create an app that emulates a Game Boy, Nintendo could, or literally just emulates Pokemon games, and then you could buy access to the games, and you could have Pokemon Blue, Red, kind of like the Virtual Console on the DS did. And the ROM's already there. It seems pretty easy to port over, and especially with the addition of Pokemon Home, because you could, I would assume, pretty easily connect that ROM system to Pokemon Home on your phone and just be able to transfer your Pokemon over. I mean, you could literally turn them into mainline games on your phone. And I guess there's an argument that Nintendo doesn't want access to their mainline games on a non-Nintendo console, like on an iPhone or something. But they have re-released these Pokemon games on DS. There's always rumors they're going to come to Switch at some point. Why wouldn't they capitalize on the mobile market? Everyone has a phone. Not everyone has a DS. And if you charge $5 or $10, you can just print money for almost nothing. I mean, I assume you put 3 people on it. You could probably code in the Game Boy app, make it connect. Pokemon Home, they'd probably do that on their own. They'd probably create that connection because it promotes their product, which is subscription-based. And then there you go. I mean, that could have been, and then you could have done generations 1, 2, and 3 because all those were single screen. I mean, theoretically, I guess you could emulate a DS on your phone. The screen's probably a little small, But at least the first 3 generations, I just never understood why that was never a thing. I mean, I guess I do understand Nintendo doesn't want out there, and maybe it would open them up to more piracy, but literally everyone's been downloading those ROMs for how many years? It's not like you can go out and buy Pokemon Red right now. I mean, they shut down the eStore on the DS, so I can't even go buy an emulated version of Pokemon Red. You physically can't buy a new copy of Pokemon Red anywhere. It kind of seems like the perfect solution to keep those games alive. Maybe they're holding them out because they want to sell them on Switch 2. I really doubt it at this point. I really think, and now that that emulator, the Delta emulator, is just free on iPhone, I don't know if you can really capture that market, because back 11, 12 years ago, the average person probably didn't know how to sideload a Game Boy app on their iPhone, and probably didn't care to find out, even if they thought it was cool. It just seems like a lot of work for them. That would have been the time period in the next, somewhere in there, to really capitalize on that. And so I think they've missed out on a market that they could still capitalize on, that kind of turn-based card collecting style game with the action heroes, the Star Wars Galaxy one. Because obviously, I think the Pocket game incoming is going to be similar in collection and money monetization. And then I think they could have ported the original games over. I mean, other people have ported their video games over to iPhone before. It's not unheard of. Heck, I can play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on my iPhone. You can play crazy things on your iPhone. Playing Pokemon Blue would not be that complicated. And then they've had the next thing is they've had successes on these mobile games that I just don't understand why they didn't continue. Pokemon Quest came out in 2018, and when I first played Pokemon Quest, I was blown away. Was it a complicated game? No. Was it a beautiful game? No. But the art style really roped me in for some reason, and I played the heck out of Pokemon Quest. And when I got done, I was telling all my friends, there's no way they're not coming out with Gen 2. Gen 2 is going to drop. The only question is it a DLC or is it a whole new game? And that's it. I never heard from again. I think maybe there was a DLC in China or Gen 2, but as far as I know, there's no DLC in the Western world. So, and that is, again, a format that, why couldn't that format have carried over to literally every generation? They could have just kept printing games. All they have to do is add the character designs, maybe a few new maps. It's just one of those things where, unless it was wildly unsuccessful, I'm just not aware of it. But that was one of the earlier Switch games. I think that actually came out before Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is probably why it was so popular. Maybe they were worried that after Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it wouldn't be as popular. But I don't think so. I think it had its own cute little moment, and people enjoyed it. And if they had kept doing them like once every 6 months, once every year, that could have been pretty profitable for them. And it probably wouldn't have been too hard to keep adding the new Pokemon and whatnot. I doubt. It's not like they're running updates to the game. It's not like they're balancing the game. They don't have to keep a staff on after the game releases. You just keep going with the next game. So that one confused me. Then there was the foray of Nintendo when they started doing mobile games at all. It was a few years prior to that. They did Mario Run. I can't remember if the Mario Kart game was around that time. But they did Magikarp Jump. And Magikarp Jump, I think, is where they learned a lesson. I'll give them this. I think they learned a lesson here. Magikarp Jump was a game where it was a solo story. You play all the way to the end. And once you collect all the Magikarp, you've done all the jumps, you did everything, the game's kind of over. You can buy a boosted package to play through the game faster. Maybe it unlocks other content. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But I remember I bought that content and I had a great time. It was a month. It took me about a month to play through it, maybe a little longer. And I really, really enjoyed that game. But the problem was, once you got to the end of the game, that was it. There was no more. I don't really think there was much opportunity to add DLC to that. It was kind of the end. And I think the spiritual successor to Magikarp Jump, hear me out, Pokemon Sleep. Pokemon Sleep is a game that connects to no other game. I mean, yes, through your sleep tracker, you can connect to Pokemon Go and get rewards over there. But I'm not trading Pokemon from Pokemon Sleep over to Pokemon Home. Although I have so many shinies sitting there, it kind of would be nice. It's a standalone game, and you're not competing against anyone. There's no battles. There's no events. I'm not getting to any ranked leaderboard. So much like Magikarp Jump, it's a fully solo experience. But they learned, and they kept the game evolving. So the game is constantly running events. And honestly, the events are kind of fun. A 2-month build-up where, hey, there's a water week, and then there's a boosted growth week, and then a better sleep week. And then you try to curate your team so you can create the best water team for the berries. But it keeps going. And it's a year into the game. They're still releasing new things. They released a new island at one point. And it's one of those games where they could theoretically just keep adding and adding and adding. Eventually, it'll be like Pokemon Go. If they add too quickly, they'll run out of things to add. But they seem to be adding at a pretty slow pace. Like one event, they're adding a legendary and one new evolutionary line. We're adding some starters here. And then there's nothing for a few weeks. So like they seem to be paced out. It's not like Pokemon Go where they're releasing entire generations at once, kind of burning through content. But it's also a game that you don't have to spend any money on if you don't want to. Because, again, you're only competing against yourself. So the only FOMO you have, the only fear of not buying things to get what you want, is amongst yourself. And I guess bragging rights on the internet. But I think I really learned from Magikarp Jump there because they created a fully solo experience game that's not affected by anyone else, but they monetized it in a way that keeps the game alive longer and keeps it running. And I know it's not the most profitable game. It's not one of those gotcha games. It's raking in money like $100 million a month or whatever. But I think I want to say that game probably made $100 million in its first year of existence with just whales trying to buy their way through the game. Because there is a benefit to putting money into the game. From what I understand, after you've caught a certain number of a type of Pokemon, you're guaranteed 1 upgraded skill, and then a certain number of the Pokemon 2 upgraded skills, and 3. So the more money you put in, the more chances you have at catching things. The more chances you have at catching things, the better your things will be, and then eventually you can get some really perfect Pokemon to build your team around. Or if you're just playing casually and don't worry about the skills as much, it's just a fun game to play for free and track your sleep. And I think that's a game they really did learn on. The other thing, another solo project is PokeMMO. I know everyone's always said, I want an open world Pokemon game. PokeMMO is there. It's been there for a long time. I've come in and out of it over the years, and right now you can sideload it to your iPhone. You can put it on your Android. It's crossplay. You can play it on your computer. And it runs really well on iPhone. I played all the way through the Kanto region on iPhone. Then moved over to another region, kind of got burned out and stopped playing, but it's there. It's got a full economy. It has events. It's being updated. It's adding Pokemon. It has a shiny system. It's got, I think it has PvP. I've never really experienced that, but the way they built out the game for leveling for each region, for building your teams, I think they've done a really good job. My question is, why didn't Nintendo do that? Why didn't Nintendo pay into them? You know? It's one of those things that just doesn't make sense to me. Because obviously, that game, the Pokemon Awakening game, they're obviously games that people are looking for. It's a style of game on mobile phones. It's very popular. And people want to play it with their favorite characters. They want to play it with Pokemon. And the Pokemon Company just never did that. They never created those games. So fans did. And honestly, PokeMMO has created a multi-region game that goes between multiple generations in a way that Pokemon has yet to do. And the fan-made Pokemon Awakening game has ridiculous animations in the battles that I think are kind of better than some games recently. So the fans are doing a really good job to pick up the slack where the Pokemon Company really fell off. Then there's Pokemon Masters EX. I've downloaded it. I've played it for a few minutes. It wasn't for me. If you're into that, cool. Maybe there's more to it that I haven't explored. Maybe it's feeling something on mobile that I should check out. I don't know. It just didn't feel like my kind of game. There's Pokemon. There's the Puzzler one. Shuffle Cafe Remix. Never download it. That one's not for me. But if you're into puzzlers, I think it's like, that's your Candy Crush kind of thing. That sure, go for it. Pokemon Unite obviously fills the MOBA, and from what I understand, it's a pretty decent MOBA. I mean, it's not League of Legends or Dota, but from what I understand, it's pretty good. I played it at release. MOBAs aren't my thing, so I didn't really stick with it. But it seems like, that's filling a void there. So they've got a MOBA, they've got the AR game, they've got the solo Pokemon Sleep game. I think they're missing that kind of turn-based card collecting game. They have their TCG game coming out, Pocket. I'm guessing that's going to be more of a quick play, kind of collect card kind of thing. And then they have the more formal TCG game where you play the actual TCG, and that, I mean, obviously that fills a void for people who want to play the TCG and don't have a community to do so, or the ability to go spend money to build out decks the way other people can. And that game that I guess failed, I don't know if failed's the right word, is Pokemon Duel. And I know Pokemon Duel incites feelings with people. I really liked Pokemon Duel. I wish I could still play it today. I had so much fun with the gameplay of the actual game. I hated the UI of the game. I hated the menus. I hated everything outside of that. But that being on the board and playing the actual game, I thought was one of the most fun things. I've been toying with the idea of 3D printing figures and trying to create a live in-person version of that game. That's how much I like that game. And I wish that game could come back. I know it can't, but with all these fan projects, I wish there was a way to sideload it somewhere and play it. But that's the kind of gacha game that rope you. And I know not everyone likes gacha games, but if they're not going to release the main titles for a price and you can play those, and they're not going to venture into other things, gacha games are where I would have to go to make money. And some of those are really fun. It's a fun adaptation of the game. It's a fun way to play with characters. It has that Pokemon IP, which would draw in a large enough fan base to make it competitive, a large enough fan base to make it fun. And honestly, look at what they have right now and tell me why aren't they more successful? Like why are these games not better? And you can say, oh, they're good enough, but if we go pull up the charts of the most successful, highest paid games, Monopoly Go, I think, is making more money than most things right now. And Monopoly Go is a gacha game with absolutely no skill where you're just trying to collect things because of FOMO. And I feel sorry for anyone that plays that game. But you can make a good mobile game. There's a Dungeons and Dragons one that I've played, Champions of something. And I always thought that game would lend itself really well to the Pokemon format. Yeah, I play Pokemon Go. I play Pokemon Sleep. I have Pokemon MMO loaded on my phone. I have Pokemon Awakening loaded on my phone. But I always just feel like there's something missing. I think an idle game. There it is. I think you could probably build a pretty decent idle game with Pokemon. And that could probably rope people into. I don't know. I just always feel disappointed with the way Pokemon mobile games have gone. I mean, it's the largest franchise in the world. You don't think they could go to some company that's making a successful-ish mobile game? Go, hey, do you want to recreate your game similarly but use our IP? Yeah? I just don't understand. It just seems like it'd be too easy. There'd be too many companies that would line up and be like, heck yeah, let's do it. What are your thoughts? Are you happy with every mobile game that exists? Or is there a mobile game for Pokemon that exists that you feel like fits exactly what you want in a mobile game? Or is there another mobile game you think that the Pokemon IP would make better or you would enjoy more if it was using that IP instead of whatever it is? What is your perfect mobile game for Pokemon? Let me know. And again, thanks for listening. If you have any other topics you want me to cover on the podcast, if you have anything you want to talk about, I'm willing to answer questions. I'm willing to talk about my opinions on your ideas. Just let me know. And again, good luck catching them all.